I now reconvene the regular council meeting for Monday, March 24th, 2025. Before we get into the meeting, we'd like to acknowledge that this council meeting is being held on the homeland of the Tanaka people. And before we get underway with tonight's meeting, with the business, on behalf of council, I'd like to congratulate Councillor Lynette Ray for being recognized as the gold candidate for best/favorite politician in the 2025 Reader's Choice Awards. Congratulations, it's very well deserved. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda of the regular council meeting of Monday, March 24th, 2025? Mover, Councillor Statsky, Councillor Bissett. Favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the following? Minutes of the regular council meeting of Monday, March 10th, 2025. Minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of Monday, March 17th, 2025. Mover, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Popoff. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Now we're going to roll into public hearing. We have 4 items on our public hearing list tonight. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act to consider the following bylaws. Plale Road Closure and Disposition Bylaw number 4162/2025. Secondly, City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, Our Path to Cranbrook 2042 Amendment Bylaw number 4186/2025. City of Cranbrook Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4187/2025 and City of Cranbrook Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4192/2025. Public hearing is being held in person and electronically with residents and interested parties being given the opportunity to express their views. This meeting is being broadcast live from the city's website, and there is a link on the homepage that will take you directly to the meeting. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws will be given an opportunity to be heard. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. However, it is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict their remarks to the matters contained within the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Members of council may ask questions of you following your submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public and not debate the merits of the proposed bylaws with individual citizens. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaws should, at the appropriate time, begin by clearly stating your name and address, and then give us the benefit of your views. You will be given 5 minutes for your submission. I will call for submissions 3 times for each bylaw. Once the public hearing is closed, members of council cannot take any further input regarding the proposed bylaws and will then deal with the bylaws during the regular meeting of council held after the public meeting. So the first bylaw for consideration tonight is the proposed Plale Road Closure and Disposition Bylaw number 4162/2025. The bylaw proposes to close and remove the highway dedication status for a 1.16 hectare portion of Plale Road in exchange for $3,000 plus legal fees, administration fees, and consolidation with 4100 Plale Road. I will call any members of the public who are in the chamber tonight to speak first. If you wish to provide your comments, please come up to the podium, provide your name and address before giving us your comments. If you're on the phone line waiting to speak, callers will be identified by the last 2 digits in their phone number, or if you've pre-registered, we'll call you by name. Please make sure you know which number you are calling from and listen for it to be called. When it is your turn to speak, you will be allowed to unmute yourself by pressing *6, and you will have your opportunity to provide us with your views. If you have not pre-registered and wish to speak, please press *3 on your phone to signal staff you wish to address council. I will now call a first time for submissions.
Okay, in addition to the room air price, we have no registered speakers, no online speakers, and just checking down there, it doesn't look like, okay, we don't have any speakers in the lower foyer.
Okay. I will now call a second time for submissions. I will now call a third and final time for submissions. Hearing no further comments, I now close the public hearing for the proposed Plale Road closure and disposition bylaw number 4162/2025. Thank you. The next bylaw for consideration tonight is the proposed City of Cranbrook official community plan, our Path to Cranbrook 2042 amendment bylaw number 4186/2025. The bylaw proposes to allow for proposed development consisting of a split-zoned highway commercial shop and a high-density multifamily residential apartment-style building, providing approximately 37 total dwelling units at 810 Cranbrook Street North, and change the land use designation for a portion of the subject property from highway corridor to high-density residential. I will now call a first time for submissions.
Okay, Mayor Price, in addition to the room, there are no registered speakers and no online speakers, and we have no speakers down below in the second foyer as well.
Thank you. I will now call a second time for submissions. And I will now call a third and final time for submissions. Hearing no further comments, I now close the public hearing for the proposed City of Cranbrook official community plan, our Path to Cranbrook 2042 amendment bylaw number 4186/2025. The next bylaw for consideration tonight is the proposed City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4187/2025. The bylaw proposes to allow for proposed development consisting of a split-zone commercial shop and high-density multiple-family residential apartment-style building, providing approximately 37 total dwelling units at 810 Cranbrook Street North, and amend the zoning designation for a portion of the subject property from highway commercial C2 to high-density multiple-family residential R6, and from community commercial C1 to high-density multiple-family residential R6, and from community commercial C1 to highway commercial C2. I will now call a first time for submissions.
And again, Mayor Price, we have no registered speakers, no folks waiting online, and the foyer below has no speakers ready to speak.
I will now call a second time for submissions. And I will now call a third and final time for submissions. Hearing no further comments, I now close the public hearing for proposed City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4187/2025. The next bylaw for consideration tonight is the proposed City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4192/2025. The bylaw proposes to add a definition of food hub, meaning a multi-use facility that provides shared space, resources, equipment, and expertise for food system orientation business. The food hub may include facilities and services, including a commercial kitchen, education and training, and retail storefront, and does not include urban agricultural use. The bylaw also proposes to add the permitted use of a food hub specifically to number 703 Cranbrook Street North. If you are part of the food hub group, kindly advise when you provide your name and address if you are up for submissions. I will now call a first time for submissions. I'll go from the gallery first. Is there anybody in the gallery tonight? A lady in the red top? Yep. Up to the, yep. And you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah, I'll warn you when you have a minute remaining.
Fantastic. My name is Meredith Funston. I am part of the Food Hub Group. I work with Community Connection Society. Do you want my address or?
Your address, please. Name and address, please. Yeah.
I do live in Kimberley, so 610 Nelson Street in Kimberley, BC.
Okay.
B1A 2M6. Okay. Thank you, Mayor, Council and staff for the effort you've put into understanding our project and its potential. Our mission is to strengthen the local food system and empower businesses that serve our community. Our food hub will include retail space, a commercial kitchen, a teaching kitchen for workshops, a dining hall, and related office storage areas, all of which align with current C2 zoning uses. These spaces will also support business incubation, contract meal programs, and food recovery. The Food Hub also aligns with a large number of policies and with the city's bold strategic goals outlined in the new official community plan. While this is a project led by Community Connection Society, which is known for a wide variety of social support programming, this hub will bring CCS in a new direction. The hub will be far more than a social service initiative. It will be a self-sustaining commercial, retail, and economic project as well. As a social enterprise, it will generate revenue that will help our society become self-sustaining and to rely less on grants. We're dedicated to partnering with the City of Cranbrook to ensure our food hub meets all city requirements. Food hubs are innovative initiatives that transcend conventional zoning categories. As such, we understand the challenge facing city staff and council, they have worked to assess our project using zoning tools. As seen in other communities, food hubs are complex to categorize, but have proven that they can have broad impacts across various sectors: economic, social, and environmental. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to address some of the points that were made in the staff report. The first is pedestrian access. So the report raises concerns about pedestrian access and safety. Our building's access will not pose a higher risk than any other retail or food establishment on the strip. The nearest sidewalk ends 150 meters away at the crosswalk, and a bus stop is approximately 300 meters away, which is roughly a 5-minute walk. The site itself is accessed via 7th Street North, which is city maintained and will support traffic flow to the food hub without it being a turnoff directly from the highway. Further, until things change in our society significantly, we don't expect that most people will be accessing the food hub on foot. The report raises concerns about parking. Currently, there are 21 paved spots and an additional separate loading zone at this location. City staff estimated that about 31 stalls would be needed, but we estimate 19 stalls would suffice for our needs. Both of these assumptions need to be verified through architectural code review because the number of parking spots is specifically tied and precisely determined by square footage for each use. So that's something that hasn't been determined yet. So to ensure our finalized renovation design complies with city bylaws, our budget has always included hiring a coordinating registered professional to conduct a thorough code review. We plan to work with the city to ensure compliance with parking bylaws, especially if parking becomes a limiting factor. I'm going to take one drink of water. In terms of environmental considerations, there is no evidence that this will be a concern. CCS has conducted a phase 1 environmental assessment, which found no significant risks. Additionally, the site is not listed on the Ministry of Environment's contaminated site registry, and no soil disturbance is expected for our renovation.
1 minute.
1 minute.
Yep.
Taxes. 2024, the property taxes for 703 Cranbrook Street North were approximately $24,000. The commercial tenant that we will continue to lease to in the back of the building will continue to pay approximately 25 to 33%, or sorry, it will compose about 25 to 33% of the building's envelope. They'll continue to pay taxes. CCS will likely apply for tax exemptions regardless of where we site this food hub, and the tax rates between zoning locations are very similar. There is more detail on that in the attached letter. Location. In the report, staff outlined current available listings that are located in the zoning they think is preferable. Unfortunately, none of them fit the key requirements, namely square footage, price, and specifically the ability to install ventilation that will accommodate the 2 commercial kitchens. I would like to emphasize that we've been actively looking for an appropriate building since January 2024. We've toured more than 15 properties, and this time was well spent because we can clearly say that this particular property is uniquely suited to meet the combined needs of such a project.
Time's up.
Time's up.
Yeah. Thanks
We
so
hope
much.
we get your support. And oh,
Thank you.
and the funding is time limited and unfortunately will be we won't be able to bring that funding to Cranbrook if we are not able to get substantially underway within the next month or two.
Thank you. Further from the gallery? Lady there in the,
Good evening. My name is Kayla Wilson and I'm on 4090 Woods Road out in the sticks. Came in just for you guys. So thank you for taking the time to listen to my words. I'm here to speak about the retail usage and how environmentally it will help impact the zoning area and the beautification. So because we work closely with legal or the local, regional, and provincial levels to support these initiatives, there'll be a balanced economy, encouraging opportunities to provide retail service and industrial uses. At the farmers markets, which we have some people had, I've seen all of you pretty much at the farmers markets, that there's also small business people, so young moms, people that might not have a leg up that can rent the kitchen areas. We have a service like that at the food bank as well. We did, but with our relocation, we haven't been able to provide this service. So we've had some really successful businesses being able to come and be fruitful and successful. So building up small businesses that are local and sustainable. Healthy meals that can go out to all the communities, and food literacy is so important. This is something I can definitely speak to from the Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy, that the service providers that we support through these initiatives, through the retail, through all the money, it all goes back into the community. So it's not just all about business, it's also supporting small businesses that wouldn't get a leg hold that could become big businesses. And it's also about supporting fresh minds. So thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
thank you very much. Any, lady in the front row, yes, please.
Good evening, Mayor Price and council members. I'm Kristen Gerkovitz, Tyler Gerkovitz. We are at 2521 3A Street South, Cranbrook, BC, V1C 4V8. So we are Kristen and Tyler Gerkovitz, chefs by design and founders of the Healthy Human Collective, a movement dedicated to transforming food, health, and community through education and mentorship. As professional chefs, formerly immersed in the fast-paced culinary world of Vancouver, we returned to Cranbrook in 2022 to grow our family. Bringing decades of experience in the hospitality industry and regenerative gut health, we've now dedicated our lives to helping families live healthier lives while helping create a thriving local food culture. We mentor how to brew kombucha and create foods boosted with probiotics to improve gut health, sustainability, and culinary innovation. This transformational journey is designed to help individuals reverse chronic health conditions, optimize digestion, and establish lifelong healthy eating habits. Through our work, we help individuals and families take back control of their health, one conscious meal at a time. We educate and inspire towards diverse demographics of families, kids, healthcare, and hospitality professionals, helping them integrate these principles into their daily lives. The Cranbrook Food Innovation Center is a perfect fit for our mission. It is exactly the type of infrastructure needed to support our work and expand opportunities for food-based entrepreneurs like us. With a commercial kitchen, a teaching space, retail opportunities, we see ourselves utilizing this hub in multiple ways. By hosting community cooking classes and fermentation workshops to teach sustainable food practices, using the production kitchen and retail outlet to prepare gut-friendly foods and kombucha, supporting other food entrepreneurs through mentorship and business development guidance, and providing hands-on learning opportunities to future culinary professionals and families alike. Being able to collaborate with this Food Innovation Center, the Food Hub, will allow us to blossom our mission right here in Cranbrook, where families, caregivers, and food entrepreneurs can come together to learn, grow, and thrive. The Food Innovation Center is more than a building. It's a launch pad for local food security, economic development, and health-conscious entrepreneurship. We believe approving this zoning amendment will help accomplish increased support for local food entrepreneurs like us who want to be able to grow and give back, stronger community food security with more access to locally made healthy foods, revitalization of the local hospitality industry, empowering chefs, restaurants, and small businesses, a direct investment in the future of Cranbrook, encouraging sustainable food systems and economic growth. Tonight, Mr. Mayor and council members, we please ask for your support in making this vision a reality. We see the Food Innovation Center as a necessary evolution for this community. Let's not miss this opportunity to elevate Cranbrook to the next level in food, one that will empower families, businesses, sustainability, and aspiring food entrepreneurs for years to come. If you would like to connect with us, please reach out to us at chefsbydesign.ca. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Further? Sure, yeah.
Is this on? Okay.
It's on.
Kisukwa Quiet, good evening. I'm Sharon Cross and I live at 2112 5th Street, North Cranbrook. From the staff report, the commercial corridor is heavily oriented towards serving the needs of the traveling public and providing auto-oriented commercial uses. The proposed location is not serviced by infrastructure for people walking or biking, which poses increased risk to vehicle and pedestrian conflicts. End quote. This location is easily accessible for people on the west side of town to walk to. The bus stop on the east side is a block away on Kootenai Street. There are also approximately 45 parking spaces for vehicle access. I live near Steeples School and often walk to the Heritage Inn for events. And with the proposed food hub next door, I would certainly walk or bicycle without any hesitation to purchase the fresh local produce and attend community kitchen events. Cranbrook Street from 4th Avenue North to Willowbrook Drive is already a hub of food services. A quick survey of businesses in that stretch of the highway reveals that it is dominated by food. The proposed food hub broadens and strengthens the options, not only for residents, but also the traveling public. So here's some approximate data. Food establishments, 44. Restaurants, convenience stores, food retail, food trucks. Automotive oriented, 18. Repair, sales, and gas stations. Home and sports products, 14. Furniture, appliances, paint, building products, sporting goods. Vape and cannabis shops are notable, as are body services like tattoo, hair, nail services. There are also some financial services such as Scotiabank and insurance. I'm guessing that some businesses won't meet the new OCP zoning bylaws and will have to be grandfathered in until they close their doors in say 10, 20 or more years. If so, compliance won't happen anytime soon. The proposed operation currently meets C2 zoning within clauses 7.15.1 and 17.15.2. The OCP supports this project under 4.2.1, 4.2.2 for small grocery stores, food processing, storage, and distribution facilities, encouraging local food entrepreneurs to grow, process, and sell food. B 5.2.1, support a balanced local economy by encouraging opportunities to provide a mix of retail, service, and industrial uses, and support initiatives advocating for food security at local, regional, and provincial levels. To say it doesn't fit here, where does it fit? There are no other suitable buildings for the whole of this undertaking. We could very well be waiting another 10 or more years for a location that can fit these varied uses for the benefit of the entire community and the traveling public. Constantly moving from one location to another for one or two of the components of this enterprise is expensive and disruptive for everyone, staff, and the community. This is a superb location to showcase this entrepreneurial social enterprise in its entirety and to raise not only its profile within the local community and the traveling public, but increase its customer base, making it more self-sustaining.
1 minute, Sharon.
On a personal note, since well before 2014, I have been engaged in trying to get a food hub here in Cranbrook. Before I die, I would think it would be wonderful to see a food innovation center proudly showcased on Cranbrook Street. So I hope that you will support this zoning request, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any further submissions from the gallery? The lady in the corner.
Good evening, Mayor, Councillor. My name is Elżbieta Sabova. I live at 872 306 Street in Kimberley. I work for United Way as a Director of Food Security. So in my portfolio, I oversee all of our investment across the province. We have been investing in food security and food access for over 20 years. But since 2020, we have been heavily focused on expanding and furthering regional community food hubs. I was really glad to see that we were able to bring this initiative and work with this incredible group of people, many of which they spoke today, to develop this initiative. So when we partnered with Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction 3 years ago to bring 6 very innovative projects to the province, I was really pleased to see that my community, where I live, Cranbrook, Kimberley, is one of the selected communities to invest $1 million in this project. We have been working with this group, Community Connections and others, for over 2 years to find location that is suitable both for what the community needs, what the opportunities are in the region, but also what is feasible for this $1 million investment. And we were really glad a couple of months ago to see that we found a perfect location. I do want to emphasize that one of the important determining factors for us to choose which of these 6 communities, which Cranbrook become to be the one, is the measure of accountability. It's the measure of following guidelines, policies, procedures, and everything that's necessary to bring such a massive project alive. So I do want to emphasize that we, with this funding, following and together with Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, are entrusting this group to bring this project alive. And it's really important to see these very innovative community projects coming to fruit and coming to life. It is a unique way of how to address some of the social issues that we are seeing in these regions, including availability of food, accessibility of food, regionality, sustainability, and so on. When we see projects that not only are focused on social issues, but also include working with businesses, working with a community, working with citizens, working with volunteers, and really can bring this in collaborative way together, there's no hesitation from our end to support these kind of projects, and I'll hope that you will too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, just a question for you. Councillor Bissett has a question.
Thank you. So the $1 million contribution from United Way, is that for capital or operating or some kind of combination of the two?
Great question. So the $1 million is part of what is needed for bringing this food hub alive. So that's a capital funding. It does have a component of staff time as well, because we recognize for implementation, as it was mentioned, we need professionals that are able to lead these projects, following guidelines, following bylaws, following procedures. We are working with this group as well on a sustainable year-to-year basis, where we have a component of staff time integrated in that, and that is funding that we're foreseeing to continue in the future.
Oh, so that was my supplemental question. So you do anticipate continuing your funding for years to come?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Papa has a
Yeah,
question.
thank you, Mayor. And I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Elżbieta,
That's why I didn't catch it the first
I
time.
know.
Thank you. Sorry, my apologies. A number of times tonight, and maybe there'll be more to continue, we hear the word commercial and entrepreneurial together, right? And in my talking with Nancy and Sophie and others, it seems like this is a hybrid. Both there's some commercial aspects of the back third of the property, and in the middle and the front end, there's going to be a hybrid of social enterprise, the productivity, the food gathering, the distribution back into the social sectors of our community, and very, very important. And then the front end, which will be doing some selling to the general public. So is it a hybrid 50-50 commercial and social? Is it 20, where's that division in your opinion? And I have a question for Rob afterwards.
So if you're asking me, we obviously can support with all the documentation, and I'll ask the group to send it over. In terms of my opinion, I think that these projects where you merge social enterprises, so you're working with commercial factor and you also support community, incredibly important in today's economy, especially. We've been working with over 350 projects across BC, similar projects that are looking at implementing infrastructure, but also having programming. And I do have to emphasize that these projects, or projects that have social enterprise integrated in them, are the most sustainable, most viable, and most sustainable way of how to address food security on a larger scale. So not
Sure,
only
and-
looking
and
at food banking
And
as
I
a
appreciate
traditional
that
model.
piece. Sorry, I appreciate that piece, but the actual, I walk in off the street, I want to buy something, that's commercial and entrepreneurial. Which part of this whole development is going to be me walking off the street and buying something and taking home to my family or taking to my campsite?
So the storefront
Well,
side would be,
whatever the entirety is of me going in and purchasing something as general public.
sorry, can you
The
repeat
general
your question?
public, I walk in with my grandson, I want to purchase some lettuce. I want to purchase something ready to make that I, as a general public, can purchase, go home and eat. Not being distributed to the various very important social sectors that we're supporting. Where's that, what percentage of that is that commercial enterprise that I would come in with my grandson and buy something and go home?
Is it, are you asking for a percentage of the food?
The
that
overall
goes-
property, yes.
Of the property? Yeah, I might need to have the group to talk to. Yeah.
I don't know if that's.
Well, no, wait.
Okay, so,
And we can supplement all the documentation. I think that the group has shared a lot of this
That's good.
documentation with you already, so I don't have the answer of particular square
good. Thank you.
footage and so on. with
thank
me.
you.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, because everyone's bringing up the commercial entrepreneurial, if I could ask a question of staff while we're still in public hearing? Is that in?
Or could you wait until we maybe get a motion on the floor, and then we'll
That
do
when
with
we
staff
can
at that
ask
time.
staff those questions?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry to keep you up. Did you have a question? Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, Councillor Ray had a thought. Any more submissions from the floor? Here, the lady there in the black.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members and staff and members of the public. My name is Sue Ann Banks, and I work for Farm to Cafeteria Canada and the Coalition for Healthy School Food and Policy Advocacy, and focus on Indigenous school food and supporting local food systems. I'm an avid member of the Kimberley Cranbrook Food Hub, now network, and I sit on a couple of boards supporting youth in the broader business community. I live at 405 3rd Avenue in Kimberley. I am speaking supporting this bylaw amendment as it's an exciting opportunity to transform this space into a vibrant hub that will serve the needs of the community in considerable ways. It creates space for innovation, education, and community connection. It provides important commercial spaces like the kitchen for local food entrepreneurs, community organizations, and individuals looking to create and grow their food-related businesses, like myself. I am also an entrepreneur. This is vital for fostering local entrepreneurship, those social enterprises, and providing opportunities for economic development. The site location will highlight the important work being done in the community and for visitors and community members alike. With a current lack of infrastructure in places like schools, the plan to build a production kitchen will allow the preparation of school meals and ready-to-eat meals, ensuring local children and families have that access to healthy, nutritious, locally procured food. This is especially important as we work to address food security and sovereignty and support the well-being of our communities. In my work, I see the need for these important spaces to create a direct link between producers and consumers and further promote local food systems. And my work is national in space. So I do get to see this in a lot of communities and rural and remote communities as well. It's understood that this current zoning designates the area for highway commercial use, but the food hub does seem to align with the OCP objectives. It will serve local, regional, and visitor needs while fostering a strong, more resilient community. The food hub is not just a space for food, it is a place for people to gather, learn, and grow together, as well buy locally procured, produced products. And I believe that will be every day, 365 days a year. We can go in and shop there. This change supports the local food system, health, and entrepreneurship, aligning with broader societal goals such as sustainability, community wellness, and economic strength. By welcoming this zoning amendment, the City of Cranbrook has an opportunity to support a project that is deeply impactful for the long-term well-being of residents and future generations. And as I like to think, 7 generations ahead, leaving behind a positive, adaptable framework that supports the future as long-standing roots for our community is very important. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Further from the gallery?
Short does this go?
Yeah, you have to pull that down. You won't break it.
Mayor and Council, thanks for the opportunity to add to the conversation tonight. I did want to kind of address Ron's question, if I'm allowed to do that. Whenever you're doing anything innovative, you figure it out as you go a little bit, right? So I could tell you that 1/3 of the square footage would be up the front to the market space, but it's really hard to delineate how much commercial activity is going to happen between in the food production, the food innovation. It really depends how many businesses come and produce stuff and they want to sell it in the market. It's anything entrepreneurial and innovative like you do when you do that, you can't delineate those numbers to start with. But it, of course, we're going to give some food for free to people that need it. We're going to make meals for the community. We're going to sell meals to the schools. But we're also, we're nonprofit, so we're going to do good work. But this is meant to be an economic enterprise. 200 square feet will be the teaching kitchen, 800 to 1,000 at the front, as I said, for the market, etc. The rental of the auto body is 3,500 square foot. So I estimate that to be about 1/3 of the square footage as well. There's one bay that we don't quite know what we're going to do with that yet. That will be evolving. And then 200 square foot is the rentable kitchen. And I just want to reiterate that we've put in 2 years as a team working on this of our time, getting the funding, finding out what we want in the building, developing all the partnerships that brought all these voices out here tonight and that wrote so many letters to the city. And that's 2 years of work that, we aren't going to get back if we don't find another space and we lose this funding. So just really appreciate your support. Thanks.
Thanks, Nancy. Oh, Nancy, could we, a couple of questions here. Councillor Ray?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So Nancy, in a couple of the letters in the package, and thank you to everyone who wrote the letters, I read through all of them. There was mention of 45 parking spaces because an area where stuff is stored has been identified. So can you give us some more clarity or information on, we've got lots of numbers floating around about parking spaces. So can you
Right.
tell us about this 45 number?
Sure. That was the number we were going with at first because we'd been told that that's what there was available. That was including the area at the back that stores vehicles currently. But we have to actually have, I don't remember the name of the professional that has to come and do that, but it's some sort of engineer that we need to pay to come and look and spec it all out and see what we can add. So really, there's only 21 right now.
Okay. Very
We
good.
were originally including those other spaces.
Okay, may I ask a follow-up there? Thank you. One of the other items that's been touched on, Nancy, is the concerns about potential contamination on the site. And I wonder if you could just speak to like Community Connections awareness of that risk and where your risk tolerance is at.
Sure. So we had the phase 1 environmental done and had to speak to our lender because we had secured a $800,000 mortgage and they're comfortable with what we've been able to identify there. The area of concern would be that the place that uses the auto body right now needs to stay that type of usage. We couldn't suddenly say, oh, we want to put a childcare center in there or something. It's an environmental use. It has to stay that way. I think there's a 2-page list of things that are appropriate businesses that go in there, but should Affordable Auto Glass move, then we would need to find another renter that used similar use so that we weren't changing the environmental impact of that space. The area at the back where we were hoping there would be additional parking, we have to have that assessed because we don't want to disturb disturb the dirt there. If we did, then we'd have to have further assessments, which could, there would be a dollar amount on that if we had to change that up, but we're not anticipating doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Couple more questions, I believe, Nancy. Councillor Bissett?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So I remember a commercial kitchen over by where Anchors is.
Yeah.
So is that where this, has it grown from that or is this totally separate? And then something at the food bank, again, is that like part of this? And maybe you could also comment on how many people, like the foot traffic on both of those locations or
Sure.
some information on how this has evolved.
So Food Recovery did rent a space before that Anchors was in, and that was just the food recovery portion of the food hub. And then when the food bank got their new space, they invited us to move our food recovery and farm kitchen operation up there. So we did that. But then when they got going in their new space, they needed that space back. So they asked us to find somewhere else to go. But at that point, we'd already, spent a lot of money moving up there and whatnot, so we couldn't afford to get another kitchen space. So we've just been borrowing from various places, churches, Salvation Army, etc. And then the farm kitchen operation started using the kitchen that will be in the shelter, but right now even that can't be used, so they're in a church space for that. Foot traffic for Food Recovery is really the volunteer base that comes to do it, and really that's negligible. It's a couple volunteers a day. And then deliveries with our van, picking up from grocery stores and putting that stuff into Food Recovery would be some traffic there for Food Recovery. But that could grow as well. It's entrepreneurial, it's innovative. We don't know where it's going to go exactly. But certainly I know there was one letter that came in that really addressed that operating a business at that spot has been no problem for food traffic and vehicles. Yeah.
Councillor Stensky?
I don't know if I answered everything there. Okay.
I really appreciate your presentation and all the presentations this evening, but just to make it official, you haven't given us your name and address yet
Sorry.
for the record.
Okay, Nancy Reed. I work for Community Connections, but I live at 701 6th Street South.
Councillor Papa?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I knew if I was going to call you out, Nancy, you'd be up here. So thank you for coming to the microphone. I'm finding a reason to find a yes in my response to this. And that's why I'm asking these questions. So yeah, you've consolidated a lot of the good work through all the food security avenues to now consolidate in one location.
Yeah.
And you have some time limited funding to now buy something and get operational. I understand that. When you were doing the ready to sell foods out of the food bank, there were the general public that were driving all the way up the industrial area to the food bank to buy your food, right? So, you know, I think there's some entrepreneurial there. And I think the markets are there as well, plus the commercial piece. So I think it's important that we, you know, no one's against the food hub. It's just as what's the right location. And some of the letters were that, well, those people that are traveling east, west, north, south, traveling public, you know, they're going to stop in and buy ready-to-eat foods and then go take it with them when they stop to go camping. Well, the general north, south, east, west road traveler, they're looking for the things on the OCP list for these types of travel-ready types of business. They're not looking for a food innovation sign and say, well, I'm going to pull over into that and do that. So if you're going to go that way, if this gets approved, you're going to have to do more branding and marketing going forward to attract the travelers more than just a food innovation hub piece. I think we know that, right? So thank you for that. And I think, you know, what you're telling me and others, you know, we're talking about this hybrid of both a commercial and a not-for-profit enterprise, and then how does it fit into our OCP? So thank you.
So
Councillor Ray.
welcome.
Councillor Ray.
Sorry, Nancy, one more quick question. Thank you, Mayor. So just back to the concern regarding parking spaces, as the operator, would Community Connections have any opportunity to put some mitigation plans in place? Like, could you work with your staff and your volunteers to limit the number of folks who are parking there? Like, could you
Absolutely.
take some steps to mitigate this concern as the operator?
Yeah, I don't know how fair this is to say, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Community Connections is going to be operating the Cozy Bear Seniors Housing that is next door. And it's not anticipated that those folks are all going to have vehicles. There are some going to be spare parking spots there that we can ask our staff, because we have both venues, to make sure that they use those spots to free up the spots for the public.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nancy.
We all good?
Anybody further from the gallery? Okay. Anybody online? Anybody in the waiting
Mayor
room?
Price, we have no online speakers, and the people in the lower gallery are not wanting to speak.
Okay, I'll call a second time for submissions. And I'll call a third time, final time for submissions. Hearing no further comments, I now close the public hearing for the proposed City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4192/2025. Thank you very much. I now reconvene the regular council meeting for Monday, March 24th, 2025. We're going to move into bylaws now. The first bylaw for consideration tonight is from Engineering Development Services regarding Plail Road closure and disposition bylaw number 4162/2025. This bylaw is back before council tonight for third reading. Can I get a motion that, subject to council's consideration of public input received up to and including the public hearing of March 24th, 2025, council give third reading to Plail Road closure and disposition bylaw number 4162/2025. Mover, please, Councillor Popoff, or Councillor Stetsky. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next bylaw for consideration is also from Engineering Development Services regarding Corbett Road closure and removal highway dedication bylaw number 4180/2025. This bylaw is back before council for adoption tonight. Can I get a motion that council adopt Corbett Road closure and removal highway dedication bylaw number 4180/2025? Mover, please. Councillor Peabody, Councillor Graham. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next bylaws tonight are also from Engineering Development Services regarding official community plan, our path to 2042 amendment bylaw number 4186/2025 and zoning amendment bylaw number 4187/2025 at 800-810 Cranbrook Street North. These bylaws are back tonight for third reading. Can I get a motion that subject to council's consideration of the public input received up to and including the public hearing of March 24th, 2025, council give third reading to the City of Cranbrook official community plan or path to Cranbrook 2042 amendment bylaw number 4186 2025. Mover Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Graham. Discussion. Councillor Peabody.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Just one question here for staff. There was a letter submitted by AJ Wheaton and Mr. Tyre, and just in regards to the amount of noise that the tire shop produces. And I know in other communities, when residential areas are built near locations that produce a lot of noise, there's usually some sort of acceptance that the people moving in that area, that they're moving into a noisy location. Can some sort of permission be made for this location as well, or should the bylaw be expecting noise complaints from this location?
So through the mayor to Councillor Peabody. So in some instances where we've seen development in relation to what would be considered uses that could be considered a nuisance, we've had the properties register restrictive covenants, basically saying you're moving in next door to a nuisance. And if you complain, well, you moved in next door to a nuisance. I guess the consideration with something like this though is, as of right now, it's proposed it'll be a rental building, so it's not like every tenant's going to have their own title. It's going to have a covenant on it to say that. Certainly, I would expect that whoever's moving into a place would take note of where they're moving next door to. Unfortunately, through doing this for 20 plus years, that doesn't stop people from complaining. So I don't know if there is an easy way to address it. Certainly, the applicant through the development process could look at screening, or the other business could put up screening to try and mitigate that. It's just one of those realities of those types of uses, and unfortunately people will and may complain. I've seen it, like I said, 20 plus years when people move in next door to a sawmill or a farm, and they complain. Unfortunately, it's just something that can happen.
Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, I think we did get a question from one of our citizens around parking. Will there be enough parking stalls provided so that there won't be on-street parking required as part of the development?
Councillor Stetsky through the mayor. There will be, currently there's, the plan is subject to change because we're not at the development permit stage yet, but right now the plan has, it shows that it does have enough parking. There might be some changes that might have to happen, but that would be something we would be looking for since there's not a lot of parking on the street on Kootenay. I think there's very little along that area. So it would be something we would be looking for at the development permit stage. And if they needed to, they would be able to apply for a variance. But yeah, again, that would be at the development permit stage as well.
Thank you, Connor. Further, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Can I get a motion that subject to council's consideration of public input received up to and including the public hearing of March 24th, 2025, council give third reading to City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4187, 2025. Mover, please. Councillor Popoff, Councillor Blissett. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you so much. The next bylaws for consideration are also from Engineering Development Services regarding official community plan or path to 2042, amendment bylaw number 4190 2025, and zoning amendment bylaw number 4191 2025 regarding the Wildstone neighborhood plan. The OCP amendment is before council tonight for second reading, while the zoning amendment is before council tonight for first and second reading. Can I please have staff give us a brief overview of the report? Rob?
Mayor and Council. So further to the report at the last council meeting where the bylaw amendment was given first reading, the proposed OCP amendment is to designate a portion of the lands from the Urban Holdings Urban Holdings Development District in the neighborhood plan to a hotel, retail, commercial district. It's also proposing to amend some of the text sections that speak to commercial development and development phasing. And we're also updating the official community plan schedule 17 highway commercial development permit area to designate these lands as a highway commercial DP area that provides additional oversight for future development through the OCP and our guidelines. The proposed zoning amendment subsequent to the OCP amendment, if both successful, will amend the text of the CD1 zone, being the Wildstone Comprehensive Development Zone, in a number of ways. So it's amending the permitted uses in both the general permitted use section, the hotel development district, and the retail commercial district. So the number of permitted uses is being expanded upon. There are some specific regulations under the current regulatory regime that restricts the maximum size and square footage of commercial retail spaces and eating and drinking establishments, and that's being proposed by the applicant to be deleted to offer more flexibility. I think the initial intent was to have would have been a smaller scale, more resort type commercial development at Wildstone, or from the original, I guess, vision. And then the amendment is proposing to add setbacks and increase allowable height for buildings and structures in the retail commercial, and then deleting and replacing the development district map to designate the lands as the retail and commercial district hotel district, and then finally rezone the portion of the lands on the zoning map from the urban holding zone to the comprehensive development zone 1, all of which would then facilitate potential subdivision and development of commercial lands on the property.
Thanks very much, Rob. Can I get a motion that council gives second reading to City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, Our Path to Cranbrook 2042 Amendment Bylaw number 4190/2025, refer the bylaw to the Advisory Planning Commission for recommendation and submit to a public hearing to be scheduled for 6 p.m. on April 7th, 2025. Mover, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Graham. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council give first reading to the City of Cranbrook zoning amendment by number 4191/2025? Mover, please. Councillor Popoff, Councillor Peabody. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council gives second reading to City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4191/2025, refer the bylaw to the Advisory Planning Commission for recommendation and submit to a public hearing to be scheduled for 6 p.m. on April 7th, 2025. Mover, please. Councillor Graham, Councillor Ray. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next bylaw for consideration is also from engineering development services regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 4192/2025. This bylaw is back before council tonight for consideration for third reading. This report is a request for a decision by staff. Would a member of council like to make a motion or to either not give third reading or to proceed to third reading? Please, Councillor Stetsky.
Option 2, please.
Option 2. Pardon me. To proceed with the, pardon me. Talking too much. Can I get a motion that subject to council's consideration of public input received up to and including the public hearing of March 24th, 2025, council give third reading to the City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4192, 2025. That was moved by Councillor Stetsky. A seconder, please. Councillor Ray, discussion. Thanks so much. Councillor Stetsky.
Thank you, Mayor. You had my support at Food Hub. This is something that we really, really need in Cranbrook. It moves Cranbrook forward significantly in a number of ways. I drove by the site yesterday, and there's no doubt that the future of the site will be greatly improved, quite frankly, by the work that you plan to do there. I think it's very exciting, and I want to thank you for all of you for making it happen.
Councillor Peabody.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to Councillor Stetsky, I think the benefits of this project far outweigh the impact that it might have on Cranbrook Street, if that's the location that it goes in. I feel like the rezoning for what they're proposing is not a far deviation from other businesses that are also on Cranbrook Street. This is also a huge financial investment in our community, and it's, as I believe Nancy said, it's 2 years in the making. And to jeopardize this project because we don't like this location over another one, to me seems like a poor decision. So I'm fully in support of the rezoning.
Thank you very much. Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. You said I could defer my question to staff to this point in time. So if I may, Rob, or I'm trying to find a reason to get to yes on this. So when it comes to the brand new OCP and planning bylaws, and you look at the multitude of entities that make up this consolidated version of the Food Hub, does it have to be 100% commercial entrepreneurialism to qualify for the highway strip, or there can be I'll use the term, a hybrid of maybe 60-70% of entrepreneurial commercial enterprise on the highway versus not the full 100%?
Okay, so let me take a crack at it. So your mayor and through the mayor to Councillor Popoff and the rest of council, I think the hard and fast rule is there isn't one. It's not a percentage based. You know, the OCP was adopted. It was very similar sentiment in terms of policy direction that the highway is generally dedicated towards the traveling public. We know there's a number of uses. Our zoning bylaws were created, the last one, so we're working with, was created in 1996. And so since then, there's been, you know, uses have come and gone. There's been site-specific uses added to the highway corridor that, you know, arguably from a planning perspective probably shouldn't have been. Some of them were contrary to staff's recommendation. It's kind of how it goes, and it's fine. But I think one of the speakers hit it on the head in that it's new, and it's new across the province, and it's new across regulatory bylaws. So it doesn't really fit nicely into one box, and we don't have a rule that says it has to be 50% of this or 25% of that. I mean, the primary use, generally, we use the word primary because there's primary and accessory, would be, you know, would be commercial. Like I said, through the speaker speaking tonight, you know, it incorporates social enterprise. It incorporates uses that would be better fit in the industrial zone, and commercial kitchen, food production is an explicitly permissible use in the M1 and M2 zones, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, it's not hard and fast. You know, certainly our zoning bylaw, again, it's quite old, and it's not up to snuff with, you know, these current types of uses and trends. It's maybe, you know, it's hard to do that, but you know, we acknowledge, and I think everybody acknowledges certainly that the concept, of course, is not up for debate. You know, staff has provided some planning rationale, but certainly, you know, as a planner, if I was on the opposite side of the table working for the client, I could argue it both ways. And I think that's just the way I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Rob. And you know, I've been working with food security for 10 years with Sharon and others, and we certainly support the Food Hub idea. I just want to make sure there was, so I think what I'm hearing today and in our correspondence is enough commercial and entrepreneurial enterprise. It beats the 50% qualification. In my mind, I think I'm okay with where we're going. Thank you.
Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much to staff for all your work on this, for the additional information that's been provided, for all your work with the proponent. And thanks as well to everyone who has engaged in the process and provided letters and spoken this evening. There's, it's great to see the community engagement. That's a good sign for our community, to see that kind of community engagement. It's been touched on that on our highway corridor, we all say the strip, but on our highway corridor, there's mixed uses. There's stuff that's for sure been grandfathered in. If we could go back in a time machine, right, we'd put some stuff in the industrial park, but we're glad we have all those businesses there. We appreciate them, and we have this mixed use for over decades of decisions being made and things happening. Our planning is very important. It provides us with an ideal to aspire to. But I think within that ideal, we also have to have some pragmatic flexibility. And I think where we are tonight is around pragmatic flexibility, I would suggest. So I appreciate that, we've touched on a number of key points tonight. The pedestrian risk, gosh, that's a risk on the whole strip. And we know that. And whatever business people are accessing, please use the crosswalks. We want that to happen, whatever you are doing. But really, that pedestrian risk applies to the whole strip. We know that it wasn't designed to be pedestrian friendly, particularly. We touched on parking. The proponent is keenly aware of the parking issue, has a mitigation strategy they're contemplating, in addition to engaging professionals to look at other options. So I'm pleased to see that. And in addition, the proponent is aware of the risks around potential contaminated site issues. And I feel like that is their responsibility to manage. As the city, I think in years past, there might have been a feeling that the city needed to help people and kind of make that decision for them. But I believe the proponent has the information, and it's their responsibility to deal with those issues. And they're aware, and their mortgage holder is aware. So I think those are important points to note. I think it's notable that I believe all the letters we received, I believe they're all in favor of the initiative. So of course, everyone has an opportunity to write and respond. I don't think we received any public engagement against this land use at this location, because I know that was a good reminder from our colleagues at the previous council meeting. It says about land use, but we have not received, I don't think we've received any opposition to the land use. So we haven't had any indication of on the ground, real life, any harm that would come from this land use at this location. I don't think anyone's identified any harm that would come. And there's been lots of discussion around the benefits. So given all that, I look forward to voting in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Councilor Bissell.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. It's interesting. This situation kind of reminds me of our issue with the daycare, in that there's a lot of really good locations we can all think of that it should be, but they're not available. And so, when we made the decision on that location, it was like trying to make the best of a situation that we had. And many members of the public could suggest alternatives, but they weren't available for us to use because we don't own that land. And so this has happened with this. I mean, I can think of some places I'd like to see this, but it doesn't mean that land is available. And in light of that, I mean, nobody is debating the value of the food hub. And that is what we've heard repeatedly. It was the issue of whether it could be on the strip and whether it could be in another location. So we don't have another location. I just hope in future that people, when they look at Cranbrook planning, we all wear this. And there's been a lot of decisions made over the years that haven't been optimum. But so I think we have to go ahead with this too. So anyways.
Thank you. Certainly, from my perspective is, so you classify a building based on the type of activity and, that's being undertaken in the building. And yes, we do have a number of activities, and what's the principal activity? When you break it down, again, and I think this is going to be a start. More and more these types of things are going to come to council. We're in a time of innovation now, business, people for business to survive in the changing business, it's about innovation. And this is what they're bringing before us. So, I look and I go, council's role in this, does it fit the OCP? Well, I don't think it matters where you would want to put it in town. That exact situation is not going to fit in any zone within Cranbrook. Okay, so there is no fit, and that's why it's here for us to make this decision tonight. So are we not adhering? Some people are concerned that we're not adhering to the OCP. Doesn't matter where you go, it's not adhering. So it's our decision to make. You can make the argument anywhere in town. So I think there's enough of commercial activity being undertaken in that building to view it as a C1. Okay, so I certainly support it on the zone, as far as the OCP. And then I look at what council's role is. Council's role is supporting community needs. Well, let me tell you, this project certainly meets community needs. Council's role is to support community business. This is certainly supporting business, new business, entrepreneurial business, and we support economic development. So it's really, really difficult for council, I think, to say no to this. So I'm certainly in favor of it. So anything further, council? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Where did I go here? Okay, the next bylaw for consideration is also from Engineering Development Service regarding subdivision development servicing bylaw number 4193 2025. This bylaw is before council tonight for first, second, and third reading. Can I please have staff give us a brief overview? Curtis.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Subdivision Development Service Amendment Bylaw before you tonight is being brought forward specifically due to Council's direction at the last council meeting to prepare amendment bylaws to increase fees. This bylaw also has some what staff believe are minor updates, just given how long it's been since we've last brought an amendment bylaw forward. The fees that we're looking at updating tonight were last updated in 2008. So it's quite a little while. The bylaw itself adds a definition of building permit that wasn't in the bylaw. We're updating the term building inspector and owner's engineer just to include diversity, equity, and inclusion principles, because they just referenced he instead of his or her. Section 5.5 of the bylaw is to update. This section requires that all new development be connected by highway to the city of Cranbrook. Or a boundary road. However, the definition of highway in the bylaw also includes lanes or pathways. So we want to change that term from highway to roadway so that we can properly maintain the roads in the development. So it's just a real technical update, that one. Section 8.5, we're proposing to update. This is the one where we can enter into a development agreement and issue a building permit or subdivision prior to the works being done. However, for whatever reason, back in 2008, the section only included subdivisions. So if a developer needs to do off-site works for a building, this allows us to enter into a development agreement formally. And also reverts back to the 125% for security for off-site works. This was delegated to the approving officer about 8 years ago. However, we've stayed consistent at 125% since then. So it's just to make it more clear for people reading the bylaw. And now to the actual fee parts. In section 12.1, our current rate is 200 for the first lot and 100 for each lot thereafter. Given the report, We're proposing $1,500 for the first lot and $300 for each lot thereafter. So it's a bit of an increase, but there is quite a bit of staff time and stuff that goes on in the background that we are subsidizing developers for that at the cost of the taxpayer. And looking at comparable communities that have done in detailed reviews, we're in line with them that are comparable to size. The communities that are around us, for the most part, we're fairly close, like Revelstoke, but for Nelson, Invermere, Spirewood, Fernie, and Kimberley, we're a bit lower, but it's tough because a lot of the local communities compare to us. So it's hard for us to compare to them as well. And then the last big update in this bylaw is more to be equitable to developers, because we're not looking at increasing the fees for the administrative fees. It's more to make it based on a percentage of the cost. So if you're, right now it's a fixed cost based on a range of percentage. So if your works fall in the lower cost, but you have to pay that higher amount, like the one range is $500,000 to $1.5 million is $40,000 that you have to pay the city in administrative costs to cover our time. However, because if you're $500,000, you pay $40,000, or if you're $1.4 million, to pay $40,000. So it's trying to be more fair to the developers in the sense that you're only paying a percentage on what it is. So depending on the cost of the works rather than that fixed cost. Yeah, that's what we're looking at bringing forward.
Thank you, Chris. Can I get a motion that council give first reading to subdivision and development servicing amendment bylaw number 419/3/2025? Mover, please. Councillor Peabody, Councillor Popoff. Discussion? Oh, Councillor Stetsky?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I understand the rationale behind the increases, and of course, not having an increase since 2008 has created quite a stark situation. But I'm still trying to figure out, how do we encourage development in Cranbrook? And right now, competition sometimes seems to be between Cranbrook and Kimberley. And when I look at the charter, the proposal for Cranbrook is $1,500 for the first lot plus $300 for each lot thereafter, and Kimberley's $250 plus $50 per lot. So putting this aside for just a little bit, what kind of incentives are we looking at to get people to develop in Cranbrook outside of this fee structure? May not be that attractive, quite frankly, although I understand the need for it. So what are we going to do to get new development coming to Cranbrook rather than, say, going to Kimberley or somewhere else?
Well, certainly, staff on behalf of council's request are working on an incentive bylaw at this point in time, and I understand that a draft may be available in the next month to 2 months, somewhere in that ballpark, Mike?
Correct, Mayor Price and through to Councillor Stetsky. Yes, staff we brought forward late in the fall several different potential initiatives on development incentives. So a couple of those are looking at revitalization tax exemption programs. Those would be focused on the downtown area with the downtown revitalization tax exemption program, and then also looking at the Victoria Avenue corridor, which has been identified through the OCP, through the work with the community and council, as having a substantial number of properties that are undeveloped or underdeveloped that could see a lot of housing and a lot of those larger developments that we do need to achieve our housing targets. And those are two substantial programs that we are seeing that mirror other communities. So when we do look at these programs, we have looked at other communities. Most communities that do have these revitalization tax exemption programs and other incentives also do recognize the need to have adequate fees that allow them to support the development through having staffing that's needed to be there. These fees are recognized as income that we do need to have. The staff load that we do have that also provides us with a unique advantage compared to other similar sized communities with the return on turning around building permits and development permits and rezoning applications. It's difficult to compare us to a lot of smaller communities, as was alluded to nearby. There's market conditions. There's availability of land that have been provided in other communities. Those are also things that council has been proactively looking at as well, is especially for some of the non-market housing through BC Builds. So I think there's a lot of current initiatives that we do have in place, but I think the biggest items that we do have is still the proactive work that staff do in helping get applications through council done in a very quick manner. And we're continuing to hear any of the larger developers are extremely pleased with how quickly that we move those, and then time is money from their perspective. And then also looking at these revitalization tax exemption programs. These fees are something that is necessary to continue to operate here, but I think, as we've also shown, typically these fees that come through local government permitting are a very small portion and typically do not have a significant impact on whether or not a project goes ahead. Other external factors such as prices of land, prices of doing the work, market rate, those are much more contributing factors than the actual fees themselves.
Subsequent, if I might, and when would these be implemented potentially? Is there a phase-in period, or would it be
these
right away?
fees themselves?
Yep, if they're approved.
Pardon me. Councillor Stetsky through the mayor. Currently, the bylaw is drafted just upon adoption. So once council adopted, any new applicants after that time would have to pay it. Council wanted to change that, we could always amend the bylaw and bring it back for a new third reading.
Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not in favor of seeing that type of increase. We saw. I'm just looking for when you're looking at the first 1,500 per lot. So that's like a single family lot, like a house lot in a subdivision.
Councillor Graham through the mayor. Usually, these fees are for subdivisions, like they're for all subdivisions in a sense of either fee simple or a bare land strata for the most part. So yes, it's usually in Cranbrook for the first single family type of house lot. It's not for a strata lot or anything, a building strata lot, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah. So I guess kind of what I'm looking at is 3 years ago when DCCs went up from just about, was it about $2,000 a lot? What do we pay now for a lot on DCCs?
Councillor Graham through the mayor, it's just over $11,000 for single family DCC.
So 11,000 plus 1,500. So now we're getting up to almost $13,000. As 3 years ago, we would have been about $2,500, give or take. That's substantial in my mind, and we wonder what affects development. Well, there's in 3 years. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's more than a few percent. And on top of that, you know, we're going to be talking about taxes coming up, and we're going to be seeing another tax increase. We've seen taxes raise almost 20% in 3 or 4 years for sure, just alone. So we want to be competitive, and what Councillor Stetsky asked a question on is, this is not about keeping up with the Joneses. This is about how we get people to invest in Cranbrook, and through that investment, we can see a tax base grow, because they can choose different places that have no DCCs or have other availabilities, but every community is unique, and if we price ourselves out of the market, I think this is where we could be headed. So I do have concerns with that, because it's just a little bit here, a little bit there, and it's like these costs just keep escalating. So I am not in favor of seeing these increases, because whether it's taxes, whether it's DCCs, whether it's this, yes, a little bit here. DCCs are substantial. Taxes a little bit here, but it's every year. It's a little bit. At some point, it has to change. And so I think we will see that happening, and I will keep the rest of my soapbox for the other sections of taxes, but they're all combined. I could give the same speech on the other thing as well, because everything's combined. We're on the edge of a recession. We have zero stability with tariffs. You talk to people in the communities, they're suffering. And these little things here could be the end of what we see happening. And yeah, people like, Wes, you're all doom and gloom because there isn't a rosy picture out there.
Thank you, Councillor Popov.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to Councillor Graham, I'm looking at going from 200 to 1,500 plus some additionals. In my mind, I see that in the last discussion, you know, if we have to go and there's some fixed costs associated with dealing with a proposed development, whether it's a single family or a high density apartment complex, you charge whatever those fixed costs are. So the advertising, those sort of pieces, I think that needs to be built into our costs. And also, you know, I mean, if the staff are going to be going over and beyond their standard work efforts to deal with the developer, again, whether it's a single family dwelling or a high density development, then let's build in those costs. But that's a one-off sometimes. You don't know what those are going to be. A single family development on a straightforward lot needs a jump from $200 for that first lot to $1,500 for first lot if there's no extraordinary fixed costs or extraordinary staff time for it. I don't know how we would justify that as a straightforward practice. And I'm looking at the numbers here. There's some of these other communities that are up in that level. They're in some very productive building going on in their communities, not like Cranbrook. And we've zoned and upzoned properties all over the place, but we're not really seeing that uptake now in construction yet. And I think if we did and we were having to beat them off with a stick, then yeah, we want to maybe throw in these, what I would call higher levels of cost recovery, but I just don't think we're there right now.
Further, Councillor Bissett.
Thank you. So Councillor Graham mentioned also the concern about taxes. And if you compare, I've just been looking at a few homes in different communities, and that affects whether people will move here too. And keeping our taxes lower, as low as we can, is part of making Cranbrook more attractive for people to live here. And this is part of that. By charging people, increasing our user fees, that then helps our tax rate. And so it's a balance of both. And I think sometimes we get swayed when we hear, oh, this is going to go up here, and we focus on that, and then we forget about the bigger picture. So I think we have to think about the bigger picture here, which is why staff have been reviewing our fees and charges. Now, when I look at this, yes, it's quite a jump to go from $200 to $1,500. So if there's a lot across the road from me, is that going to get charged $1,500? Because it's not a subdivision, it's an existing lot. If you could clarify that, please.
Yes, Councillor Bissett through the mayor. It's only for subdivision.
Right.
So it's not going to existing houses. So the idea is again to recoup a more equitable fee from the developer at the time of subdivision. So if they're doing a 10-lot subdivision, only one lot pays 15, and then that's to try and cover some more of the fixed costs of the approving officer and planning and the fire department for reviewing the development, and then every lot thereafter is 300. Where currently it's 200 and 100, where I would spend how much time on that. And
So we are not recouping all our costs by any stretch.
Nowhere near. We're very heavily subsidizing development.
No, and neither are those other communities. So they will be charging everyone to do this because they're not recovering their costs. So their taxes will go up more because they have to pay for it eventually. And so I'm more comfortable. And I think from our public survey, people were more comfortable with user fees increasing somewhat. And this is still a somewhat increase. We're not recouping our whole cost. So no, I will support moving ahead on this because I think we have to look at the bigger picture of what the Cranbrook taxpayer is paying for. And I think it's appropriate for developers to be paying when they are developing subdivisions like this.
I guess from my perspective is, you're correct. Our survey did indicate that the majority of residents, when they're talking about fees and costs, is user pay. They want to see more user pay, okay, rather than taxes go up. This is user pay. This really, to me, I don't want to downplay it, but that's not substantial. From $200 to $1,500 on the cost of building a house. I'll remind everybody, if you do look at the housing prices in our region, Cranbrook is significantly lower than just about anywhere else in the region. Okay, so land prices. Oh, why is this happening in Kimberley and not in Cranbrook, these developments? Well, we've got developers who have been coming to Cranbrook for 5 years that I'm certainly aware of. We've got private landholders, landowners in the city of Cranbrook who have old land, new land, I don't care, but they have the land that is prime for the development. These outside developers are coming in and they're not selling it, or they're asking about 3 times a reasonable rate, and they're trying to take advantage of the people outside of the area. That's why it's not happening here. Why is it happening in Kimberley? Do you think the city of Kimberley gave those guys those developers that land? No. So, as a city, I think we have to do this. It is user fees. We are so far behind. And going back to the DCCs, I understand that. But when we did the DCC review, we brought it up to the average. What year was that? That was 4 years ago? 4 years ago? 4 years ago, we brought it up to the average in comparable communities. Fair? And we knew at the time that 50% or more of the communities we compared with were in the process of revising theirs and going to make a revision and amendment on them. So theirs have gone up. And you can rest assured that we're at the bottom, at the very bottom of our category in DCCs. And, we can get this and slash. Take a look at, and let's take a look at this year's budget. Look at last year's budget. Look at some of our capital projects. Thank God we've got DCC money, guys, these last couple of years for some of these capital projects we're investing in. Because if we didn't have DCCs, there's a couple $1 million worth of projects that wouldn't be happening this year that are critical projects in Cranbrook. So I know it's a bitter pill. We're asking more and more, but you know what? This is at least not going to be reflected in taxation, and I don't think it's a bad deal. So my little rant. Further? All in favor? Opposed? We have a motion that's passed, and we have 3 that are opposed. Councillor Graham, Councillor Popoff, Councillor Stetsky. Who's good is here? Can I get a motion that council gives second reading to subdivision and development service and amendment bylaw number 4193, 2025? Mover, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. 2008 was the last update, so 17 years ago. So I guess sort of the flip side, if we want to reframe it, is it's probably been a pretty good deal for 17 years. And now we're looking at an update. So I think that's reasonable. I appreciate the concern around sticker shock, but I would say we could reframe it and say it's been a real good deal for 17 years.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. We have 3 opposed. Councillor Graham, Councillor Popoff, Councillor Stetsky. Can I get a motion that council give third reading to subdivision and development servicing amendment bylaw number 4193, 2025? Mover, please. Councillor Blissett, Councillor Peabody. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have 3 opposed. Councillor Graham, Councillor Popoff, Councillor Stetsky. Thank you very much, guys. Good discussion, good debate. Final bylaw for consideration tonight is also from Engineering Development Services regarding building amendment bylaw number 4194, 2025. This bylaw is before council tonight for first, second, and third reading. Staff is going to give us an overview of this report as well. Curtis.
Thank you, Mayor and Council again. The building amendment bylaw again is being brought forward under council direction from the last council meeting to prepare bylaws to increase different development rates. 3 of the many rates in the building bylaw are being proposed to be updated. The straightforward to the building moving and standard building demolition permits are currently $150 and proposed to be $200. And then the building permit application fees increase the minimum value from $50 to $120. Then increase from $9 per $1,000 of permit to $12 per $1,000 of permit between $10,001 to $100,000. This current range is between $1,000 to $40,000, and then also increase from $7 per 1,000 to $10 per 1,000 for any values over $100,001. The last time these fees were updated were in 2013.
Thank you, Curtis. Can I get a motion that council give first reading to building amendment bylaw number 4194, 2025? Councillor Popoff. Councillor Bissette. Discussion? Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you. In this case, last updated 2013, I think it's high time we did a review.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council give second reading to build an amendment bylaw number 4194, 2025? Mover, please. Councillor Bissette. Councillor Ray. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council give third reading to build an amendment bylaw number 4194, 2025? Mover, please. Councillor Graham, Councillor Ray. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Moving into new business. First item, new business from Engineering Development Services regarding the RDK referral of bylaws number 3387 and 3388. Can I please have staff provide an overview of that report? Connor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll try to keep this one a little bit brief here, but this is a property that's to the west of the city, just west of Borden Road and the aggregate and gravel yard that's over there. So there's a larger property that's looking to be rezoned. The RDK has referred this to us for comment. So they're looking to amend the OCP, the Rocky View OCP, portion of it of the property from large holdings to small holdings, and then to amend their zoning bylaw for electoral area C from upon subdivision of the property to from RR8 country residential to both RR1, which is estate rural residential, and RR4 is hobby farm residential. So the applicant is proposing to subdivide the parcel, which would create 3 lots in the subdivision. Now, generally, as we've seen these RDK referrals before, application for development on the urban fringe are generally not to be supported by the city. This is within our OCP until such time as the city and the regional district complete a coordinated intermunicipal urban fringe growth plan. And one item of note is that the city's OCP has proposed the proposed road network map identifies a proposed collector road running through the property as well. That's a brief overview. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Can I'm sorry, this report is a request for decision by staff. Would a member of council like to make a motion to either advise the city has concerns or the city has no concerns? Councillor Graham.
Option 1.
Option 1. Can I get a motion that council advise the RDK the city has concerns and does not support proposed bylaw amendment number 3387 and number 3388? A seconder, please. Councillor Stetsky, discussion. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. I think, again, it really, if we vote in favor of this motion and it goes back, the RD doesn't care, I don't think. But you're to the point made about why we're opposed to it is a fringe plan. And has there been any work on getting a fringe plan together for fringe growth around the city with the RD? And I think that we're high time for that. So how do we put pressure on that with these kind of things? With turning this down, they'll probably vote in favor of it, but I do maybe Rob's got a comment on it or something.
Could I just speak to that for a second first? We've wrote a letter to the RDK making a recommendation that we formed the committee, the group that will look at the stuff on the fringe. They're looking at it. I don't know what happened. Apparently, they got the letter. They didn't respond. We just sent something back from Rob. Rob Gay has asked me about that. I think if, again, this doesn't matter either way to me. It's out there. It's 3 lots, not a big deal. But, even when you look at it, it's, typically they want a minimum of 2 hectares. They're going to divide 2 of them into 1.21. But my thought is that we're rejecting it, and make a note that if we reject it, refuse this, make a note that there's a lack of consultation between the two, and this is another of those fringe, and then we would encourage them going forward. If we're going to take these seriously, we need to have this group formed. I mean, it's one way of getting through, because you're absolutely right. We can deny this. They decide at the end of the day, and typically they do, because it'll be everybody against Cranbrook pretty much, and that's the way it works. But that's fine. So if we did approve it or didn't approve it and just left it at that, they're going to go through and do what they're going to do. I think we should probably emphasize why we're, maybe across the board, if it's just a thought, I want to try and, sway anybody's decision here, but, they have to look at that. This is getting more and more prevalent, and this is just starting. This is absolutely just starting around here. So that's just my thought on it. Rob?
Sure, just through the mayor to Councilor Graham. It certainly has been discussed at the staff level when we were reviewing and doing some consultation engagement with RDEK staff with relation to our OCP, and of course their it's been a tough go, I think, for them, but they're also doing a review of their Rocky View OCP, that's my understanding, which is the OCP that surrounds our area. We keep kind of plugging it at the staff level as much as we can. I certainly think what we could do as far as the resolution, we could have the resolution just presented on the referral form and just put, we can put staff notes that our OCP says the reason we don't support it is because we need urban fringe planning. I think the more we do that, and then ultimately, I think what it'll take, and through the discussions that we've had, with Mike, our director, and the director at the RDEK, and certainly the mayor and staff at the RD and Rob Gay, is I think what it's going to come down to is just finally getting commitment from both parties to throw some skin in the game and commit to doing the work as a special project. And I think that's really how it's going to happen. So I think if we just kind of keep reminding them as well, because they've got their priority list just as we do. But I think at some point I can envision us kind of coming together, everyone throwing some skin in the game, be it some, financial contribution to either, hire somebody or work together. But I know they're working on their OCP and we just finished ours. Yeah. But I think just to keep reminding them will probably be helpful, and we can just do that as a matter of course of our response back to the referrals with respect to this resolution as a good starting point. Good, Rob.
Back to Councillor Graham for a follow-up, and then over to Councillor Tusky.
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's not like there's necessarily a problem, but it's like when there's no consultation outside of a letter because we don't have a plan, and it's like I know we contribute to planning up there, and it's like, how do we get this on a list as a planning initiative, because we do pay for some planning, and I think this is one of those things that we could push back at the table. Yourself could push back at and say, well, we contribute to planning. Can we not slice out some of that pie so we can get a fringe plan done for growth around the city? And I think it's high time. So just something to think about.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Stetsky, then Councillor Rousseau.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues around the table here. We should say no, but every time say no, we want a plan. No, we want a plan. Keep emphasizing that.
Thank you, Councillor Bassett.
Well, thank you. So yes, I agree with that, and I think we need to make a motion when we are at RD when this comes up. Then we need to bring up about the issue about that we're paying for planning, and that we would also, I think we should do a motion that staff are directed to work with the City of Cranbrook staff on a fringe plan. And we need to have that motion in place because then it has weight. because it won't fly. I know how the vote's going to go right now. And, but we also should make sure that the points you've made about the road considerations be highlighted in there for their staff to see, so that that comes up when it goes ahead.
Further? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Good discussion. Really good. Final item of new business is from finance regarding the 2025 tax levy increase. Can I please have staff provide a brief overview of the report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to council. A description of the report, I will provide that. In May, council asked staff to target a 5% increase for 2025 in the upcoming budget development process. The increase for 2025 was originally budgeted at 8.59%. This was before adjusting for increased costs and reduced revenues that were not known when the financial plan was adopted back in February. To move from 8.59 to 5% would require reducing the 2025 tax levy by almost $1.3 million. Since that meeting with council, staff have worked incredibly hard to find savings and identified revenue opportunities. Service types and service levels were evaluated for relevance and efficiencies. Fee structures were examined for completeness and compared to market. Staffing roles and schedules were analyzed for efficiencies, and community support payments were assessed. In addition, council directed staff to conduct a survey so residents could learn of the budget challenges and provide their feedback for the 2025 budget. In that particular process, it was a two-pronged approach: a statistically valid survey and a public opinion survey to consider options to reduce taxes to the target or below that set by council. Since the financial plan was adopted in February of 2024, when the tax increase for 2025 was expected to be the 8.59%, cost increases and reduced revenues in excess of $800,000 had been identified. This would have pushed the 2025 tax increase to almost 11%. Through staff's efforts, the impact of those changes was avoided by identifying cost savings and increased revenue elsewhere. The net result was a preliminary tax increase of 8.87% presented at the December 13, 2024 meeting with council. Staff met again with council on January 29th, where a further $516,000 in tax reductions were presented, resulted in an adjusted increase of 7.43%, down from the 8.87% presented in December. Today, staff are presenting an additional $366,000 in tax reductions for a proposed tax levy increase of 6.4%. Staff have also provided an alternative for council's consideration that results in the tax levy increase of 5%.
Thank you, Charlotte. Can I get a motion that council direct staff to bring forward for 3 readings the 2025 to 2029 5-year capital plan, pardon me, 5-year financial plan bylaw, resulting in a 2025 tax levy increase of 6.40%. A mover, please. Councillor Peabody, Councillor Stetsky. Discussion. All in favor? Oh. Councillor Stetsky.
Just had one question. With the 6.4%, does that mean, for example, that the swimming pool hours question is still out there, or will that swimming pool hours be restored at 6.4%, for one example?
So, Councillor Stetsky through the mayor, that is a pilot project intended to gather public feedback, because as the director pointed out, of all the projects and processes we've done so far to get the tax increase down, there's another list in the report that we talk about what are the things we're working on. A lot of the things that came out of the budget survey, we've talked about user fees and reducing non-peak time use, staff time. A lot of those things will bridge. They're not just achievable in 1 year. So we've got everything that we could get done for council to get this tax levy set for this year. But there's a lot of projects that are going to take bridging the 2 years. And that includes some of the stuff that was talked about earlier with development service fee increases, parking rates. So those things will come to fruition through 2026. So the pool hours specifically, that is a pilot project. The intention being to try something to reduce the costs, get the public feedback. Council will be presented the public feedback, and at that time, council can make a decision. But it's not reflective of this tax rate, and it's something we're working on towards the 2026 tax rate.
Councillor Bissett.
So I see in the report, the alternative to go to the 5%, which is what our target was, would mean eliminating the 1% dedicated road tax, as well as then reducing $143,000 in change from the accumulated surplus, which then has repercussions for next year. So I just want the public to be aware of that. We can't have it all. And I want to emphasize that because, you know, the efforts of staff to try to save money means some reduction in services. And staff have tried to make that as painless as possible. But it doesn't mean there isn't some pain. And I really would like people to be thinking when they're filling out the recreation survey about, okay, well then what do you want to give up? Because the proposal from staff is to reduce hours during the least used time. And I think that's a good way to go, to have a minimal impact. But if that's not satisfactory with people, please make another suggestion. And so I would like to hear it. You know, I think I commend staff for the work they've done. I'm pleased that this has happened. We needed the push in order to bring it down to 6.4. Otherwise, we would be sitting here at over 8% tax increase. So I am pleased with the efforts that have been made. And yes, there's some reduction in service with that and increase in user fees. We just had the discussion tonight, and many council members are not comfortable with increasing some of the rates. Okay, well then you want a higher tax increase. So, I mean, again, it's difficult decisions, and that's what we make the big bucks for. Facetiously, I'm saying that to the public. So that's the way I'm comfortable with going ahead with the 6.4, because I'm also concerned about next year and the year after that. So thank you for the work you've done.
Thank you. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the, I agree with Councillor Bissett that the 5% target was very productive because it provided motivation throughout the organization. I really appreciate how management took it on and like went for it. So, and thank you as well to our colleagues around the table. And I would highlight Councillor Graham and Councillor Bissett for pushing to set that target. It has been effective and it's been a real team approach. So I certainly feel that as a corporation, the city has done the best job possible to get as close as possible to that 5% target. And I look forward to voting in favor of this motion. And I will say as well, you know, certainly I think we've all been following the news from other communities about how they're approaching their tax rates, facing the same challenges. And one of the items that was highlighted by one of our neighboring communities is just the funding model for local government. And that's a broader issue, that when your only revenue source, your only option is to raise taxes, or you hope you get more residents and more businesses and have more people paying taxes. But are there other alternatives for this funding model? And that's the work of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So it's a broader issue, and we are not alone in facing this challenge. I think, yeah, I think the City of Cranbrook has done the best we can do, and this is a good outcome.
Thank you. Councillor, anybody else? Oh, Councillor Graham. I'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. as we've deliberated on the budget, and I've been fairly firm on where I stand on 5%, and we're raising rates and we're still raising taxes. So I think we have to be cognizant of that. If there was rates going up and then taxes were going down, I could go along with that, but it's not. So I will stand on that it's important that we are aware of what these impacts have in the community as well as in the business community at such a time of uncertainty. So I am not in favor of a 6.4 tax increase.
Thank you. Further, Councillor Stetzky.
Yeah, I'm going to support the 6.4%, and absolutely picking 5% as a target was a good thing to do. I really appreciate the work that staff have done to bring it down to 6.4. In terms of those who say, well, we voted for 5% in the staff survey. If we had put your choice was 6.4% or 8.59%, you would have voted for 6.4%. So it's a number. We've been working hard to try and get there. In order to keep the services going that we need to keep going, we're going to have to go with 6.4%. And so I'm certainly supportive of that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Charlotte. I'm certainly in favor of this. And, I just want to acknowledge, right through the organization from council, our administration, finance, managers and staff. It was the entire organization involved this year that worked on the budget. And what I did see from the departments is they were extremely selfless this year. It was all about the corporation. The goal was 5%. It's nice to set a goal. We can't always meet the goals or the targets. Well, it wasn't even a goal, it was a target. And we could make 5%, but make no mistake, we're all going to be sitting here next year. We got one more budget year before there's an election. And I'm not playing election stuff here, but you'll suffer for that next year. It's impossible. When we started the process, when I first started talking to Charlotte and looking at it, I honestly did not think we'd get under 8% this year. So you know what? It was work from the very top, members of council, right down to the people in operations, that contributed, that are the boots on the ground and right through. So thank you all very much. Yeah. And on that, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. One opposed. Councillor Graham is opposed. Again, Charlotte, thanks so much. Pass that on to your people. And Mark, if you could please pass that along to staff, that this was an exceptional year in budgeting. Moving on to admin updates, I believe. Yes, we have admin updates from Public Works regarding the e-scooter 2025 kickoff. Who do we have on that one? Up on the screen.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So 2025 operating season for the city's electric kick scooter program is scheduled to launch April 1st. The pilot program is in compliance with BC's electric kick scooter pilot regulation. Will run from April 1st to November 2025. Up to 100 scooters will be deployed across popular areas such as Rotary Park and downtown Cranbrook. Similar to last year, e-scooters will be available 24/7 and will feature additional safety measures to prevent usage by intoxicated riders. Each scooter has a maximum speed of 24 kilometers an hour and will be accessible to individuals 16 and older. Helmets are mandatory for all riders in Cranbrook. To start a ride, riders will have to take a selfie via the Bird app, which will detect real-time whether the user is wearing a helmet. To report a problem, both riders and pedestrians are invited to contact the Bird Canada team at 311_Cranbrook at birdcanada.com or via the app's community mode. And that's it on e-scooters.
Thank you, Tony. And you got something on Kingsman Spray Park as well?
Yeah, the Kingsman Spray Park, so the Public Works Department and the Kingsman Club have been working together over the winter to prepare the Kingsman Spray Park to be open for summer. Finding a company that was willing to work with our existing infrastructure was difficult, but we managed to find one in Kelowna. They are a Canadian company and build all their own features. We have ordered the features and are hoping they will arrive in a couple of months. The Kingsman Club has worked hard to fundraise for this project, and they plan on fundraising more to be able to resurface the spray park and more features in the future.
Thanks, Tony. A couple of questions probably here. Councillor Blissett has a question or comment.
Thank you, Tony. With regard to the scooters, I was thinking we also need to emphasize that they are for driving on the road, not on the sidewalks. Because there have been, I mean, personally, I had an issue with somebody coming along Main Street, Cranbrook on the sidewalk, and it is dangerous when you're leaving stores. So just to emphasize to people that they are to be ridden on the roadways.
Okay. Further counsel? Okay, thanks very much, Tony.
All right, one more admin update.
Okay, on the
current
Wait.
snowpack.
Oh, okay, yeah, I thought I had Kirby here. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, this report is update council on the current snowpack conditions on Moye Mountain. Moye Mountain is located within Gold Creek watershed, and BC Hydro has an automated station on site that provides meteorological data in the province's database, and the station is used by the city in for forecasting purposes. Current snowpack conditions for the 2024-2025 season indicate that the snowpack is just below average compared to 63% the same time last year. The Phillips Reservoir level is currently at negative 0.6 of a meter or 19 meters in elevation, which is good for this time of year. Anticipated conditions for 2025 are looking like we will see below average water from the city's watershed unless significant precipitation occurs for the remainder of the winter and into the spring and early summer. Depending on the temperatures, there should be minor to no flooding, however, less water to fill Phillips Reservoir, but not much less than the means. So we're going to continue the proactive approach and continue to monitor conditions. We're also starting a dedicated leak detection program focusing on a proactive approach to finding some leaks this summer and use less water for spring cleanup. Thank you.
Tony, the leak detection, did we have that crew out last year as well?
Well, we purchased the equipment and started to use it, but not a full scale program like we're doing this year. So this year, what we're actually looking at doing is on our annual report we brought to council. We showed council the issues we're having with flare fittings. So we're actually looking at going out and doing leak detection on 48 kilometers of the pipe that has the flare fittings, and hopefully find the leaks before winter and do some proactive repairs.
Good stuff. Thanks, Tony. Anything further, council? Thanks, Tony. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Next up, we have an update from Engineering and Development Services regarding building and bylaw services programs. Who we got on that one? Paul.
Good evening, council. Just giving you a brief update that the bylaw department will be instigating or implementing a new bike patrol program through the spring, the summer, and into the fall. So at any given time, we will have 1 or 2 officers riding around select part of the downtown core and into the rec zone, just approaching people and just dealing with situations as they arise. This is going to be a very proactive unit, and just basically assisting citizens that are just trying to enjoy the parks and the rec zones and walk through downtown. And then also we're going to be implementing a CEPTED program. So the CEPTED program is basically about crime prevention through environmental design. So we're going to start being able to provide a service to our citizens and to our businesses, and just giving them a general overview of how to better protect their business, their personal belongings, their vehicles. You know, as we know, our town is slowly starting to change, and our bylaw officers will start taking a more proactive role and just giving some good advice in terms of how to protect, again, their house, their residences, their vehicles, and their belongings.
100%? No. Councillor Graham?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of questions on the bike patrol program. I assume you'll be riding on your 10-speed?
Absolutely.
I think this is something that it's great, and it's very unfortunate that it's not the RCMP sitting there telling us this is what they're doing. And we're having to take proactive approaches to pick up the slack from the RCMP and the policing because of the problems we face there with only having 20, 17, or 15 officers. So this is something here that we're seeing with our bylaw, with what you're doing, Paul, with this, and even on your next point, is that if we were to work towards a higher level bylaw officer and reduce the number of RCMP officers, that we could actually fund a community policing unit, we could achieve a lot of things that the public wants. The public wants officers on a bike, whether it's bylaw, whether it's RCMP, they want presence and visibility. And we're stepping up to do it at huge costs that we're not going to get any cost recovery from. And it's unfortunate. I'm very happy that we're doing this. I think it's great. And it's definitely very proactive. And it's just unfortunate that the RCMP aren't doing it because of what we pay them for.
Thank you. Councillor Papa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Interesting to see how this works out. Hopefully we get more praise than complaints about city staff riding their bicycles around town during work hours, but let's see how that plays out. I shared with senior staff a couple times already some decals you find spray painted to the sidewalks. And as to Councillor Gossette's point, people don't know. I mean, I don't know where the signs are, but they're not visible, that you're not supposed to be riding your scooter, your bicycle, your anything, E or non-E, on sidewalks in our downtown core. So there's some decals I took photos of and shared with senior staff. I don't know if I shared it with you or not, Paul, but it's just a decal that you spray paint at the entrance to every sidewalk at the corner. Walk your ride. I can share with you as well. I think that would be a low-cost thing to start getting the message out in advance of the bike patrollers, telling them what the rules are when the rules are right there that they look down and see right on the sidewalk. So I'd really encourage that to happen simultaneously with this, please.
Excellent.
I think you'll see that.
So, anybody else? Paul, you got just on the drone program?
Yeah. So we will also be implementing the use of a drone starting in a few more weeks. We have submitted all of our papers in terms of the privacy protection, confidentiality, and the storage of the drone footage. The drone will become a useful tool for us to find obscure locations, to patrol certain locations. And again, it's very accessible through our officers. They've been training on the drone for quite a while now, and they've become very adept at it. And it's a lot more mobile than bikes or even a truck going out into the country roads, what have you.
Good work. Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Really great initiatives, all three of them. What does that last one mean about privacy?
We did a privacy impact assessment. So I think it's one of those things where, you know, say we were flying over a forest and we actually happened to see an incident that we weren't supposed to see. What do we do with that information? Right? So we've gone through that whole process of reverse engineering, you know, how we would handle such a circumstance. Right? So we've been very sensitive to the potential that video from time to time could capture an occurrence that we weren't meant to capture. That's what it means. Yeah.
I guess, Paul, related to that, we were talking about a surveillance program as well, where we may have cameras mounted now. We're sort of back to the drawing board on that one, but that's something that's in play right now as well that we're looking at. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, great work in bylaw for sure. Very innovative. Thanks, guys. Who do we have next? We have from Recreation and Culture. Regarding the monster trucks and Western Financial Place events.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So just a quick update. Special events in the city of Cranbrook are back on stride after a brief pause with the Memorial Arena project, and most recently being the monster trucks. Monster trucks, loud motors, big tires, car crushing adrenaline. Seems like that's the wheelhouse of Cranbrook residents, as we had 5,500 residents and guests to our city come out. Very similar to past events like Winter Woodsville with the extreme snowmobiling and the downhill freestyle snowboarding and skiing. So we do like our extreme sports here. And so touching back on some of the other events, staff are still learning the event world. And Monster Trucks is a great event to continue with learning. A couple of the recreation and culture staff that made this event a success were Steve Bell and Adam Creamer. Additionally, the staff, Brian, Tina, Carrie, Sherry, Terry, and Karina all had vital parts as well. And for the Monster Trucks event, we had a special guest rock star. So roads manager Curtis Mummery played a vital role in acquiring the 550 cubic meters of dirt alongside of the contractors and equipment to move this dirt. To host monster trucks on top of a ice surface is quite the feat. So congratulations to all those staff for pulling off this successful event. Moving forward with our special event.
Councillor Stetsky has a question on that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We had one resident concerned about air quality. Has that been dealt with or talked about at all during that event?
Mayor Price through to Councillor Stetsky. The air quality was monitored, and it always is going to be a concern when you have indoor events. We had our HVAC system on fresh air. We had doors open when necessary, and there are multi-gas meters, including CO2 and NO2 in the facility. So yes, the parts per millions were high, but for brief periods. Specifically, the monster trucks run methyl alcohol, so their exhaust is lower. It's the motorbikes and the mini monster truck and the ride truck, et cetera, that burn regular fuel that have higher forms of exhaust. Good. So moving forward, some of the successes that we've seen here in the past few years, the community buy-in for special events is amazing. Contractors and local businesses that help us out all the time. We have lots of stuff donated that would make these events impossible to happen if we didn't have this buy-in from the community. Our volunteer program as well. We get a lot of community volunteers, and we also get a lot of City of Cranbrook staff that volunteer for our events. Our social media campaigns, we do get a lot of engagement. Majority of it for our special events is positive. And we are bringing in a wide variety of shows that show a diverse range in audiences. Not everybody likes rock and country shows, but we have the theatrical events, and we had skating, we've got monster trucks. Some of our bigger challenges are gone right now are the local promoters. So we don't have community members stepping up to help us host these events from that risk and monetary standpoint. The only promoters that are really left are the big ones like Live Nation and AEG and some of these other companies. And, you know, the bigger fish want a bigger piece of the pie when they come to town. So it makes figuring out these, the finance side of things a little bit more difficult. Another big challenge is all artist fees are based on the US dollar. So if an artist is going to play a concert, you know, why would they come to Canada and play for 100,000 Canadian when they can play in the States for 100,000 American? And just that simple economic rate there makes it a lot more difficult for us to attract shows to Canada, let alone Cranbrook. Another big challenge is the more special events we host, the more work it is for everybody. And special events currently in Cranbrook are done off the side of our desk. So it's not, it's nobody's full-time job to do. So the more we bring in, the more work it is for everybody, and the day-to-day operational stuff is what's going to be taken away from. We also have a bit of a change, a challenge and a change coming with our staff. So that culture of the way the staff operate, like we operate a hockey and swimming arena. Special events are always secondary or third or fourth on the list. So when people have to step up and do a little bit more work or a different type of work on a daily basis, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get things done. Some of our contractors that we use aren't from Cranbrook, and it's not from not trying to use Cranbrook-based contractors. They just don't exist here. So the dollars and cents become more and more as we have to bring these contractors in from out of town. Another challenge is the ancillary revenue. So most event centers have setups where they're receiving money from concession sales. Cranbrook does get a little bit. Their merchandise sales, parking, ticket fees. We do have higher ticketing fees nowadays, but that's not something Cranbrook residents are typically liking or used to. So that is something that we're slowly bringing back to the market just to get offset some of the risk with these shows. Traditional concerts are a risky business. It's very easy to lose money and very difficult to make money. Taking initiatives to find alternative events and funding that is available for these is key. Our current alternative events are like festivals like Rock the Kootenays. We do the Beer Fest, these kind of things where we're outside the norm. We're not a typical rock or country show. Discovering the true cost of our entertainment in our community and what's a reasonable risk when it comes to special events.
Thanks very much, Trevor. Councillor Peabody.
Thank you, Mayor. Trevor, you mentioned how fuel-inspired events are quite popular, and you also mentioned Winter Blitz. Do you think down the road there might be worth a discussion of making that a for-profit event, and maybe the city could find a way with the organizer to actually make it so it actually makes money, as opposed to having, what was the last one, $100,000 is what it cost us. It was a very popular event. I think the formula is there and it works very well, but is there a way to run that event and actually make the city money as opposed to costing the city money?
Mayor Price to Councillor Peabody. It's a great question. There's a lot more risk when you're dealing with stuff you don't know. So Winter Blitzville is weather dependent, and finding somebody that's going to it'd be great if we had a partner. So finding somebody that's going to help us with that show. As you know, the city of Cranbrook was a 50-50 partner, and there were entities that did a lot of the work. So once again, going back to off the side of our desk to get some of these shows that are heavily staffed, timed. But could it be a profitable event? I think so. I think it could be that, or at a worst case, a break even. But definitely it doesn't have to be on the backs of the taxpayers, but it will take effort to get there.
Further? No. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you.
Moving on to correspondence, we have 2 items of correspondence. Would council like to discuss or make a motion or receive these for information? Councillor Peabody.
Thank you, Mayor. I just think the letter from Jim Nickel on item 12.2, I think that is worth a response as far as like, we're sorry, or not, we don't even have to say we're sorry, but just like we received your correspondence. Our decision is made up for this year, but we understand your points and please apply for next year. Just something along those lines.
Does that sound reasonable, council? Just respond to apply next year? Yep. Did anybody want to make a motion on the shuttle? Okay, so I got a tentative motion here if you, right? Can I get a motion that council receive the correspondence from Jeff McSweeney, owner, Now Shuttle Limited, dated March 7th, 2025, regarding the request for support in expanding Now Shuttle Limited license in these scooters, and further that council approve the request for support for the removal of the medical transport only restriction on the Now Shuttle Limited license, and for the addition of 2 luxury vehicles. So that is, mover was Councillor Bissett, seconder Councillor Peabody. Discussion. Councillor Bissett.
Well, I think it's an important move for Cranbrook. I mean, I've heard from a number of people who are concerned. They have friends, relatives that show up at Cranbrook Airport and they can't get a taxi into town, and it's not walkable. I've driven people into town when I've been out there. So it is a situation we have a big need, and I'm pleased that this company has come forward.
Thank you for that. Further? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to mayor's and council's report and inquiries. Let's start with Councillor Graham. Nothing? Councillor Popoff. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very quickly, it was my pleasure to attend the Chamber AGM on March 12th, along with Councillor Peabody and Mayor Price. And thank you to Councillor Peabody for being our liaison to the Chamber, of course. I attended the CWD Forum on March 13th, very well attended event. Thank you to the organizers for that event, and excellent job as well by Trevor Crowley from the Cranbrook Townsman in terms of summarizing some of the key points from there. There's going to be another CWD forum coming up here on March 28th at the college at 7 p.m. So if people are interested in additional very good scientific information, I would encourage folks to attend. Our Memorial Arena has been busy over the last little while. So last week there was an amazing local organizing committee made up of volunteers to organize the Tier 3 provincial hockey tournament. So we had lots of guests in town, a bunch of hockey players, their families, and so just want to send out a big thank you to all those volunteers who made that event so successful. And this past weekend, we had another big hockey event in our community. The Key City Old Timers Hockey League had their championship. I think people were playing as if the NHL scouts were in the stands. There were some hard-fought battles. The winning team this year, after a very close game, was Inland Kenworth. I might live with one of the members of that team. I'm very thankful they won, because he would have been very sad if they had not, after 20 years in the Old Timers Hockey League. And thank you as well to the Old Timers Hockey League. They always make donations as well to the community. And yeah, just big shout out for everyone who participated in that event.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Councillor Ray. I understand, yeah, there were a number of scouts in the stands for the Old Timers, and I understand that your husband was scouted. And I'm just curious if you're moving on maybe to Montreal or Toronto. Would you be moving, or would you be Vancouver? Okay, yeah, yes, very nice. Councillor Bissett. Nothing. Councillor Peabody. Councillor Stetsky.
A couple of things. 12.2, of course, was the correspondence from Jim Nickel, Cranbrook Community Forest Society. The Ready grants are coming up shortly, and I hope they apply there. I haven't seen the list, but that would have been the appropriate place for them to apply. Would have been through the
Good point.
regional district. Couple of questions for our CAO. An update, please, if you could, on the College Road connection to 30th Avenue. In terms of where that's at.
Councillor Stetsky, through the mayor, we had a call with the college representative as well as their consultant 2 weeks ago. Right now, there's still some ongoing discussions and negotiation of potential agreements around purchasing of land and getting road dedication through the college in order to complete their construction project.
So no date in sight potentially?
No date in sight in general. They still are hopeful to complete the construction works during this construction season, but there would still need to be some agreements in place through the city to accept the works, to make sure that they were all done to a standard, and then it would still ultimately up to the college to decide when they want to dedicate the road and have the city take it over as a part of any changes there. So as soon as we have a bit of a path forward and a schedule on that, we'll definitely bring it to council for an update.
And the other one, CEO Furcho, that I'm getting asked about still, of course, is Knights Hall and what's happening there.
Yes, Councillor Stetsky through the mayor. So Knights Hall property is privately owned, and so it is under a remediation order. However, the property owner failed to pay property taxes, so no other bidders emerged. So the city is what's known as a deemed owner of the property during the 1-year redemption period for that site. So the property owner has 1 year. So that whole process we'll know in July, but it'll be finalized by September. In order they could potentially sell the land to someone else who would then be required to clean it up as well, or we'd have to do another remediation order, or then become city owned. So as of September, we'll have more clarity. Until September, essentially the city can't do anything on that site because although we have the remediation order against the property owner, it's now in sort of this 1 year period where not much can happen. Because I'll just use this example. If we use city taxpayer money to clean up the site because we are the deemed owner, the property owner could then sell it to someone else as a cleaned up site, and $1 million of taxpayers' money would fly out the window, and I don't think taxpayers would be happy with that. So everybody's just going to have to wait until September, and then we'll have clarity of what we can do responsibly with taxpayer money if it's city owned or if someone else owns it by that point.
Okay, thank you. We'll follow up then. Last item was kind of a happy, sad item. At our meeting last week, we folded up the Cranbrook Social Planning Society up. A number of you would have sat on the society over the years. It was a really good group of over 30 social organizations in Cranbrook. The organization folded. The downside was because they were having problems finding people to step up to lead the society. Everybody is so busy with all of the different functions they have these days. But the good news part of it was that it was a reference to the fact that the city has come a long way around social issues since this committee was first formed. There was reference made to the mayor's task forces and the benefits that came from that, the benefits of having Marcel on staff. A lot of things are moving forward now around the social side of Cranbrook that were not in place previously. So that's the good news. The money they had was split up amongst a number of the organizations that formed the society. But I am now no longer council's rep to a society and a committee that is now defunct.
Thank you very much. And I have nothing to report. And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Councillor Bassett, Councillor Peabody, all in favor? Opposed? Adjourned. Thank you very much. Good meeting, guys.